One really important aspect about becoming a self-sufficient diver is figuring out how to plan your dive together with your buddy. What are you planning on doing on your dive? And so the bare minimum requirements in my mind for a recreational dive plan is going to consist of two things. Number one, where do you want to go? What do you want to see? And number two, what are the constraints going to be on the amount of time that you can spend on the dive? So let's first look at this first one. So, what do I want to see? Where do I want to go? Are there any specific sites that you want to see? Some dive sites are very conducive to wanting to see specific things. So, this is the wreck of the Hilma Hooker, which is a very famous shipwreck and dive site in Bonaire in the Southern Caribbean. And so you've got shore is here, you park your car here, and you walk into shore, and there are two different moorings on this wreck. There's a south mooring towards the bow, and there's the north mooring towards the stern. So let's say the plan is I want to go and see the props. I want to see the propellers on the stern of the boat. Well, then maybe you should plan on, well, let's head towards the north mooring, and because that's going to be a lot closer to the stern. And so we're going to plan on going to the north mooring and then go down to see the props. All right, so that's your specific thing you want to see. How are you going to get there? Well, you've got some options. You could do a long surface swim out to this north mooring and then descend down the line. But you could also set a compass heading from shore for that mooring and then do a nice underwater swim through the beautiful reef here in the shallows before it drops off and you come to the wreck. And then you can you hit the wreck and you make a right, and you will find yourself at the stern with those props. So you've got some options. And if you have specific sites you want to see, it's important for you and your buddy to be in agreement on that so that you're both excited and on the same page with what you want to see. Some sites don't really have a specific thing that you want to see. So, for example, this is a map of French Reef, which is a very popular dive site in the Florida Keys. And so, if you don't have there's no shipwreck here or anything. It's a coral reef. So, what do you want to see? I want to see pretty fish and pretty coral. All right. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, let's say that your dive boat moors at this mooring buoy here. There's lots of different mooring buoys throughout French Reef, and your boat's on this one. And let's say I want to go and see different spur and groove formations. So spur and grooves are where you've got these spurs or high elevations of coral, and then you've got these grooves of kind of sandy area in between them. Well, if I'm moored here and I want to kind of check out a number of different spurs, then maybe the dive plan is we're going to take roughly a northeast heading from the boat and go and explore some of these spurs and groove formations. And then when it's time to turn around, we'll take a southwest heading and head back. Maybe that's your plan on what you want to do and see. But regardless of how specific the things you want to see are, it is important that you decide ahead of time what your maximum depth is going to be. It's important to decide that ahead of time and not to exceed it. So this is a map of Bainbridge Quarry in Pennsylvania, which is where I first got certified back in the day. And so let's say the dive plan is here we've got the access point here into the water. The plan is I want to go and swim down and I want to see this cement mixer truck that's down here. And this is round about 50 feet. So I'm going to go down to 50 feet, see that cement mixer, and then I'm going to head around the bowl here and kind of just swim around these trees and check out the fish and stuff around here, and then it's time to head back and come back to shore. Well, if that's my dive plan, then I should not be exceeding 50 feet. You don't want to find yourself in the situation of, well, I know I was only planning to go to 50 feet, but, there's this Caterpillar construction truck is over here, but that's at 65 feet, but I'll just go down there for a bit. It can be very tempting to go deeper than you planned. This is a picture. This is not Bainbridge Quarry in Pennsylvania. This is a beautiful wall dive, crystal clear water, and especially at sites like this, it is so tempting to just go, I'm just going to go a little bit further, just a bit further. And before you know it, you find yourself deeper than you planned on being, and then you've got all sorts of issues with gas supply and decompression status that you had not planned for. So, very important, set that maximum depth and don't exceed it. So again, for a bare minimum requirements for a dive plan, I want to hear, where are you wanting to go? What are you wanting to see? How are you going to get there? And in the next video, we'll talk about the second half of this, which are the constraints on your time and how much time you can spend on your dive.